In the solitude of the early morning hours, an ordinary man is heading home after another grueling day at work. But something's wrong. Lights are on where they shouldn't be. And in the kitchen, he finds the last person he ever expected to see, the most powerful woman in his company. She's not there to give orders, but to ask for forgiveness and to change everything he believed about himself. If this story caught your interest, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let us know what city you're watching from. Now back to the story. New York City never sleeps. Its lights flicker in the pre-dawn hours like fallen stars on concrete, and among the millions of lives that cross without ever truly seeing one another, there is Ryan's story. An ordinary man, the kind who goes unnoticed in a crowd. Dark hair, always a little messy, tired eyes carrying the weight of sleepless nights and days that were far too intense. At 38, Ryan was a father, a worker, a survivor. On that Thursday morning, he was driving his old sedan through the empty streets of Queens, returning from another exhausting late shift. The radio played a soft song he wasn't really hearing. His mind was far away, trapped between spreadsheets, lines of code, and meetings that seemed to have no end. Ryan was a technical analyst at one of the country's largest tech firms, Innova Solutions. He'd been working there for almost 10 years, ever since he graduated from college. 10 years of dedication, of projects delivered on time, of sacrificed weekends. But Ryan was invisible. His colleagues knew his name, but few knew his story. No one knew he was raising his little girl Isabella on his own since she was 3. No one imagined he woke up at 5 a.m. to drop his daughter off at the neighbor's house before taking 2 subway lines to the office. No one saw the deep circles under his eyes, the skipped lunches, the nights spent wide awake fixing problems that others created and he was left to solve. As he parked his car in front of the small apartment building where he lived, Ryan felt the familiar weight of exhaustion. It was 2:40 a.m. Isabella would be asleep in her room, probably hugging the teddy bear she got for her last birthday. Mrs. Davis, the neighbor who watched her, when he had to work a late shift, was likely dozing on the living room couch. Ryan climbed the stairs slowly, trying not to make a sound. The key turned in the lock with a soft click. The door opened, and then Ryan froze. A light was on in the kitchen. His heart pounded. Mrs. Davis never left lights on. Isabella couldn't reach the switch. Ryan entered slowly, his body tense, his senses on high alert. He walked past the living room, where Mrs. Davis was sleeping peacefully, and headed for the kitchen. What he saw made him freeze in his tracks. A woman was there. Her back was to him, and she was stirring something on the stove. She wore an elegant business suit, the grey blazer hanging on the back of a chair, her white silk blouse still impeccable even at this hour. Her blonde hair was tied in a perfect bun. Ryan recognized the silhouette even before he saw her face. Catherine Pierce, the CEO of Innova Solutions. What the hell was the CEO of his company doing in his kitchen at 2 in the morning? Catherine turned when she heard his footsteps. Her blue eyes met Ryan's, and for a brief moment he saw something he never thought he'd see on that powerful woman's face: vulnerability. "Ryan," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "I'm sorry to barge into your home like this. I needed to talk to you. In person." Ryan's mouth felt dry. He looked around, still trying to process the surreal scene. "How did you get in here?" "Mrs. Davis let me in. I explained who I was. She thought it was a company emergency." "Is it an emergency?" Catherine sighed deeply, resting her hands on the kitchen counter. Her shoulders, always so straight and firm in board meetings, seemed to slump a little now. "Depends on your point of view. For you, maybe it is. For me, it definitely is." Ryan pulled out a chair and sat down, still stunned. "I need you to explain what's going on." Catherine walked to the table and sat in the chair across from him. Her eyes, usually so cold and calculating, were misty. "Ryan, 3 weeks ago, my father passed away. You probably saw it on the news." Ryan nodded slightly. "Yes, I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." "When I officially took over, as president of the company, I decided to do something my father never did. I reviewed every internal process, every evaluation, every project from the last 5 years. I wanted to truly understand the company, not just the numbers they presented to me in meetings. And what did you find? I found a nightmare, Ryan. I found that the company my father built, the one I swore to protect, was being eaten away from the inside. Managers embezzling funds, falsified performance reviews, employees being sabotaged. And out of all the cases I found, yours was the one that shocked me the most. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. Mine? Catherine opened a folder that was on the table. Ryan hadn't even noticed it was there. Inside were documents, printed emails, spreadsheets. Do you remember Project Aurora? How could he forget? Ryan had worked on that project for 2 straight years, night after night, developing a revolutionary artificial intelligence system capable of optimizing industrial processes. It was his baby, his creation. But when the project was launched, the person who got all the credit was Mark Thompson, his direct manager. I remember, Ryan answered, his voice heavy with an old bitterness. Project Aurora saved this company from bankruptcy, Ryan. When my father was sick, our stock was plummeting. Clients were cancelling contracts. Aurora brought us back. It brought in $120 million in contracts in the first year alone. And do you know who the real creator of that system was? Ryan didn't answer. He already knew the answer. You, Catherine said, pointing at him. All of that code, all of that architecture, all of that innovation. It was you. And Mark stole it all. He forged reports. He put his name on the documents. He kept you in the shadows. Catherine's words echoed in the silent kitchen. Ryan felt something break inside his chest. It wasn't a surprise. Deep down, he had always known. But hearing it out loud, confirmed by the CEO of the company herself, was different. It was real. It was painful. Why are you telling me this now? Ryan asked, his voice trembling. Because I failed you. Because this company failed you. And because I'm not going to let it continue. Catherine stood up and went to the sink, got a glass and filled it with water. She took a sip, before continuing. I've spent the last few weeks investigating. I discovered that Mark wasn't alone. There's an entire network of managers who do this. They steal credit, manipulate reviews, and make sure brilliant employees remain invisible while they reap the rewards. And you, Ryan, were one of the biggest victims of this. Ryan felt his eyes burn. He thought of all the times he'd felt incompetent, all the times Mark had humiliated him in meetings, saying he lacked strategic vision, that he was just an average technician. He thought of his ex-wife, Amanda, who'd left him, saying he had no ambition, that he'd never amount to anything. He thought of the nights he'd watch Isabella sleep and wonder if he was a failure as a father. I thought I wasn't good enough, Ryan said, his voice breaking. For years I believed that. Catherine returned to the table and, to Ryan's surprise, placed her hand on his. You were always good enough. You were always extraordinary. And I came here today to ask for your forgiveness. On behalf of the company. On behalf of my father. On my own behalf. Ryan looked at her hand on his. The hand of the most powerful woman in the company. The woman who decided the future of thousands of employees. And she was here, in his kitchen, asking for his forgiveness. What do you want from me? Ryan asked. I want to fix this. I want to give you the recognition you deserve. I want to offer you a leadership position, a fair salary, the autonomy to create. I want you to help me rebuild this company the right way. Ryan pulled his hand back, running it over his face. This is crazy. Why would I trust you? Why would I believe it would be different this time? Because I won't give up until I prove that you can trust me. Silence settled between them. Ryan looked around his small kitchen. The walls needed a fresh coat of paint. The refrigerator was old. The table had seen better days. But this was where he and Isabella had breakfast every morning. This was where she drew pictures while he made dinner. This was where real life happened, far from the cold offices and empty meetings. I need time to think, Ryan said finally. Catherine nodded. I understand, but Ryan, there's one more thing you need. To know. Mark was fired today, along with 5 other managers. We're opening a full internal investigation. And your name, your true role in Project Aurora, will be publicly recognized. Ryan felt tears stream down his face uncontrollably. Years of pain, of humiliation, of silence were finally finding a voice. Someone finally saw him. Catherine stood up, grabbing her blazer. "I'll leave my card here. Call me when you're ready to talk." "And Ryan," she said, turning at the kitchen doorway, "you're an incredible father. Mrs. Davis told me how you take care of Isabella, how hard you work for her. That's also extraordinary." And with that, Catherine Pierce left Ryan's home, leaving behind a changed man. A man who was finally beginning to see his own worth. Ryan sat in the kitchen for long hours until the sun began to rise. He thought about everything he had been through, about all the times he had felt small, and for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to feel something different. Hope. When Isabella woke up and came running into the kitchen in her pajamas, her hair all messy, Ryan scooped her up and hugged her tight. "Good morning, sweetheart." "Good morning, Daddy. Why are you crying?" "These are happy tears, honey. Sometimes we cry when we're happy." Isabella tilted her little head, thinking. "So you're happy?" Ryan looked out the window at the sun illuminating the city. "I'm starting to be." "Are you enjoying this story? Tell me what you think of it, and how you think it will end." The following days were an emotional roller coaster for Ryan. He went back to work the next Monday, but everything felt different. The hallways of Innovatech, once so familiar, now carried a new weight. Every glance from his colleagues seemed questioning. Did everyone know what had happened? Were they whispering about him in the corners? Claire was the first to approach him. She was a woman of 42, with brown hair always tied back in a practical ponytail, discreet glasses, and a sincere smile that lit up her face. She had worked in the quality assurance department for 15 years and, like Ryan, was one of those people who made the company run behind the scenes, without any of the spotlights. "Ryan," she said, knocking lightly on the door of the small office where he worked. "Can I come in?" "Of course, Claire, come on in." She closed the door behind her and sat in the chair next to his desk. "I heard rumors. They're saying Catherine fired Mark and a few other managers. Is it true?" Ryan sighed. "It's true. And they're also saying it has to do with you, that they found out he was stealing your projects." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "How did you know?" Claire gave a sad smile. "Ryan, I've worked here a long time. I always knew you were brilliant, and I always thought it was strange how Mark got all the credit for projects that clearly had your fingerprints all over them. I just never had the courage to say anything. I'm sorry." Ryan felt a lump in his throat. "You don't have to apologize. I stayed quiet for too long, too." The two sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the buzz of the office continued. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, quick conversations between colleagues. Life went on, but for Ryan, everything had changed. "Catherine wants to promote me," Ryan said suddenly. "She wants me to take a leadership position." Claire's eyes widened. "Seriously?" "Seriously. But I don't know if I should take it. I don't know if I trust it." "Ryan, you deserve it. You always have. But what if it's just another move? What if she's just trying to use me to clean up the company's image?" Claire leaned forward, her expression serious. "Or maybe she really wants to fix things. Sometimes people change, Ryan. Sometimes they wake up and realize they were wrong." Ryan wanted to believe that. But years of distrust and disappointment had built high walls around his heart. Tearing them down wouldn't be so easy. That afternoon, Catherine requested a meeting with him, not in her office, with its huge windows overlooking Park Avenue, but in a small, discreet meeting room on the top floor. When Ryan arrived, she was already there, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee in her hands. "Ryan, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." He sat, his palms sweating, his heart racing. Catherine seemed different, less imposing, more human. "I know you're still processing everything," she began, "and I understand your distrust, but I want you to know that my intentions are real. I've spent the last few weeks talking to employees, reviewing processes, trying to understand where we went wrong. And the more I uncover, the more I realize how far we've strayed from what really matters. The people." Ryan listened in silence. My father built this company from scratch, Catherine continued. He started in a garage with 3 employees and a dream. But over the years, as the company grew, he became more distant from the people. He focused on the numbers, the profits, the shareholders. And I did the same thing. I took over as president, focused on proving I was capable, that I could take the company to new heights. But in the process, I forgot to look down. I forgot to see who was actually making it all happen. She paused, her eyes shining with restrained emotion. And then I found your case, Ryan. And I saw myself in a mirror. I saw everything I swore I would never become. I saw the injustice, the abuse, the exploitation, and I realized I was complicit in all of it. Because I didn't see. Because I didn't want to see. Ryan felt something shift inside his chest. This woman, so powerful, so unreachable, was here, vulnerable, admitting her mistakes. That had to mean something. It had to. "What do you want me to do?" Ryan finally asked. "I want you to help me fix this. I want to build a new team with people who genuinely care, people like you, like Claire. I want to create an environment where no one is invisible anymore, where merit is recognized, where ethics are more important than immediate profit." "It's a beautiful dream," Ryan said, "but dreams are easy to have. Turning them into reality is the hard part. I know. That's why I need you, because you've lived what it means to be ignored. You know what needs to change." Ryan took a deep breath. Part of him wanted to believe. He wanted to take that leap of faith. But another part, the part that had been hurt too many times, was still resisting. "I need to think," he said. "But Catherine, if I accept, it has to be on my terms. I won't be anyone's puppet. I won't be used for a PR stunt." "I don't want a puppet, Ryan. I want a partner, someone who will challenge me, someone who will tell me when I'm wrong." Ryan nodded slowly. "I'll give you an answer by the end of the week." When Ryan left that meeting, he found Claire waiting in the hallway. She had that look of someone who was dying of curiosity but trying to play it cool. "So?" she asked as soon as they were far enough away. Ryan told her everything. Catherine's words, the promises, the doubts that still plagued him. Claire listened intently, nodding from time to time. "You know what I think?" she said when he finished. "I think you're afraid to believe you deserve this. You've spent so long thinking you were inadequate that someone is telling you the opposite, you can't accept it." Claire's words hit Ryan like a punch to the gut. She was right. The biggest obstacle wasn't Catherine or the company. It was him. It was the voice in his head that repeated, like a broken record, that he wasn't good enough. That night when Ryan got home, Isabella greeted him with a new drawing. It was a colorful castle, with high towers and windows full of flowers. At the top of the castle, she had drawn 2 figures, one big, one small. "Look, Daddy, it's us in the castle." Ryan took the drawing, his heart aching. "It's beautiful, sweetheart, but castles are only in fairy tales. My teacher said that if we dream really hard, castles can become real." Ryan hugged his daughter, feeling tears threaten to appear again. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to dream a little. The following Saturday, something unexpected happened. The doorbell rang at 10 in the morning. Ryan, who was in the kitchen making pancakes with Isabella, went to answer, puzzled. When he opened the door, he was speechless. Catherine was there, but not the executive Catherine in high heels and a business suit. This was a different Catherine. She was wearing jeans, white sneakers, and a simple t-shirt. Her hair was down, falling naturally over her shoulders. She looked 10 years younger. "Catherine?" Ryan said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" She held up a paper bag. "I brought croissants from the French bakery on the corner. I heard they're the best in the city. I thought you and Isabella might like them." Ryan didn't know what to say. This was so out of the ordinary, so unexpected, that he just stood there in the doorway. "Can I come in?" Catherine asked with a shy smile. "Or is this too much of an invasion?" Ryan stepped aside. "Come in." Isabella appeared from the kitchen, her curious eyes fixed on the visitor. "Daddy, who is it?" Catherine knelt down to be at the girl's level. "Hi, Isabella, my name is Catherine. I work with your dad." "Are you the lady who came here in the middle of the night?" Isabella asked. with the brutal honesty of children. Catherine laughed, surprised. "You saw me?" "I woke up to get some water. I saw you in the kitchen." Ryan felt his face burn with embarrassment, but Catherine just smiled. "That's right. I came to talk to your dad about important things." Isabella studied Catherine carefully, then nodded, satisfied. "Do you want some pancakes? Daddy's making them." And so, in a completely surreal way, Catherine Pierce, CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country, spent her Saturday morning in Ryan's kitchen, eating pancakes and croissants, listening to Isabella talk about her drawings, her dolls, and her school. Ryan watched it all, somewhat dazed. There was something profoundly human about the scene. Catherine laughed at Isabella's stories, asked sincere questions, and seemed genuinely interested. And Isabella, with that special intuition that children have, seemed to have accepted Catherine immediately. When Isabella went to play in her room, Catherine helped Ryan with the dishes. They worked in silence, side by side, in a strange and comforting intimacy. "Thanks for coming," Ryan said finally. "This means a lot. I wanted you to know that I'm not just the CEO. I'm a person who wants to do the right thing." Ryan looked at her, really looked, and he saw not the powerful woman who commanded thousands of employees, but a woman who was trying to find her way, a woman who also had fears, doubts, and regrets. "I accept," Ryan said suddenly. "I accept your offer. I'll lead the new team." Catherine turned to him, her eyes wide. "Really? Really? But there are conditions. I choose my team. I have the autonomy to make decisions. And if at any point I feel like things are going back to the way they were, I'm out. No hard feelings." Catherine extended her hand. "Deal." Ryan shook her hand, feeling the firmness of her grip, the sincerity of the gesture. And for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could really change. The transformation at Innovatech began the following Monday. Ryan arrived at the office at 8 a.m., but this time he didn't go to his forgotten little office on the 3rd floor. He went straight to the 10th floor, where the leadership offices were. Catherine had reserved a large conference room with a view of the city where Ryan and the team he chose could work. The first person Ryan invited was Claire. She nearly fell out of her chair when he showed up at her desk. "I want you on my team," he said, straight to the point. "I want someone who understands processes, who knows the company inside and out, and who isn't afraid to point out problems." Claire brought her hands to her face, her eyes welling up. "Ryan, I don't know what to say." "Say yes." And she did. In the following days, Ryan gathered 3 more people. Jessica, a 26-year-old junior developer who had brilliant ideas but was never heard. Peter, a data analyst who saw patterns where no one else did. And Tyler, a designer who turned complexity into simplicity. They were all like Ryan had been, invisible, underestimated, extraordinary. The first week was intense. Ryan proposed a complete audit of all ongoing projects. They wanted to understand where there was waste, where there was sabotage, where human potential was being squandered. Catherine gave them carte blanche, access to all files, all spreadsheets, all emails. What they discovered was terrifying. There was an entire system set up to benefit certain managers. Projects were intentionally delayed so that other departments would look more efficient. Employees' ideas were stolen and presented by their superiors. Performance reviews were manipulated to justify promotions for people close to the managers. With each discovery, Ryan felt a mix of anger and validation. It wasn't just him, it was systemic. It was a culture that had taken deep root. Catherine attended the team's meetings every day. At first, Ryan thought she was suspicious, wanting to control things, but he gradually realized that wasn't it. She was learning. She asked questions, listened intently, took notes, and when the team presented solutions, she implemented them without hesitation. In one of those meetings, Claire presented a shocking piece of data. Over the last 5 years, the turnover rate among high-performing employees was 3 times higher than the average. The good people were leaving. "We need an anonymous tip line," Jessica suggested. "A place where people can report abuse without fear of retaliation. And a revised code of ethics," Peter added, with clear punishments for those who violate it. Catherine nodded at everything. Do it. You have my full support. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. On the company's board, there was resistance. Lawrence Miller, one of the oldest members, began to openly question the changes. He said the company was losing its focus, that prioritizing ethics over results was corporate romanticism. The tension exploded in a board meeting during the third week. Ryan was invited to present the preliminary results of the audit. Lawrence interrupted him 3 times, questioning every number, every proposal. With all due respect, Ryan, Lawrence said, his voice dripping with condescension, you have no experience in strategic management. You can't just change processes that have worked for years based on idealism. Ryan felt his blood boil, but before he could respond, Catherine stood up. Lawrence, the processes you call functional were killing this company from the inside. They were driving our best talent away. They were creating a toxic environment. And if you think results are built by stepping on people, then maybe it's time we reevaluate your position on this board. The silence that followed was deafening. Lawrence turned red, but didn't retort. Catherine had made it clear whose side she was on. After the meeting, Ryan found her in the hallway. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Catherine said. If I don't defend you publicly, no one will take these changes seriously. And besides, she added with a tired smile, Lawrence was being a jerk. Ryan laughed, surprised. It was the first time he had heard Catherine use such an informal word. There was something liberating about it. In the days that followed, Ryan and Catherine began to spend more time together. Not just in official meetings, but in casual conversations in the hallways, quick coffees between appointments, messages exchanged late at night about ideas and concerns. A connection was forming, something that went beyond the professional. One evening, as Ryan was about to leave the office, Catherine appeared in the team's room. Everyone else had already gone home. It was almost 9 p.m. Still working? She asked. Always, Ryan replied with a weary smile. Isabella is with Mrs. Davis. I told her I'd pick her up at 10. Catherine sat in the chair next to his. Can I ask you a personal question? Sure. Why did your ex-wife leave? Ryan hadn't expected that question. He was silent for a moment, choosing his words. She said I had no ambition, that I was content with a mediocre life, that I would never give her the life she deserved. And you believed that? For a long time, yes. I thought she was right, that I really was a failure. Catherine leaned forward, her eyes fixed on his. Ryan, you created an artificial intelligence system that revolutionized an entire industry. You're raising a daughter on your own, with love and dedication. You have more courage and talent than 99% of the people I know. How could you possibly think you're a failure? Ryan felt his chest tighten, because no one ever told me that before. Until you showed up. The air between them changed. It grew thicker, charged with something unsaid. Catherine reached out and slowly touched Ryan's face, a light, almost hesitant touch. I see you, Ryan. And what I see is extraordinary. Ryan's heart raced. Part of him wanted to pull away to maintain a professional distance, but another part, the part that was tired of always being alone, wanted to lean in. Before either of them could do anything, Ryan's cell phone rang. It was Mrs. Davis. Isabella had a fever. The moment was broken. Ryan jumped up, grabbing his car keys. Sorry, I have to go. Of course, go and let me know how she is. Ryan ran to his car, his heart still pounding, his mind a blur. What had just happened? What was he feeling? When he got home, Isabella was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her face flushed with fever. Ryan picked her up, took her temperature, gave her medicine, and applied cool compresses. Mrs. Davis left after making sure everything was under control. Daddy, you took a long time, Isabella murmured, her eyes sleepy. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Daddy was working. You work a lot. I know, but it's so we can have a better life. Isabella hugged him. I just want you to be here with me. Ryan felt a pang of guilt. Even with all the changes, even with the promotion and recognition, he was still failing at the most important thing, being present. That night, after Isabella finally fell asleep, Ryan sat on the couch, thinking about Catherine, her touch, the way she looked at him. Thinking about Amanda, the ex-wife who had made him feel small for so long. Thinking about Isabella, who needed a present father, not a workaholic. His phone vibrated. It was a message from Catherine. "How's Isabella?" Ryan typed his reply. "Sleeping, fever's down a bit." The response came quickly. "I'm glad. If you need anything, just let me know." Ryan stared at the message for a long time. There was something comforting in those words, something that made him feel less alone. "Thank you," he typed back. "That means a lot." The next day, Ryan arrived at the office determined to set new boundaries. He talked to the team about work hours, about the importance of having a life outside the office, about not sacrificing family for a career. Claire agreed immediately. "We're here to change the company culture," she said, "and that includes changing the work-yourself-to-death culture." Catherine, when she heard about the conversation, showed up in the team's room. "I completely agree. In fact, we're implementing a new policy. No one works past 7 p.m., except in real emergencies, and weekends are sacred." The team was stunned. It was a radical change for a company that had always valued those who stayed late, who sacrificed everything for their job. "But what about deadlines?" Tyler asked. "And urgent projects?" "If a project can only be delivered with everyone working 12-hour days, then the deadline is wrong," Catherine said firmly. "We're going to learn how to plan realistically." Ryan looked at her with admiration. She wasn't just talking about change. She was actually changing things. That weekend, something unexpected happened. Catherine called Ryan on Saturday morning. "Hi, sorry to bother you. Do you and Isabella have plans today?" "No, nothing much." "Why?" "I was thinking of taking you to Central Park. It's a beautiful day. And well, I haven't done that in years. Just go out to relax, you know." Ryan hesitated for a second, then smiled. "We'd love that." And so, on that sunny Saturday, Ryan, Isabella, and Catherine spent the day at the park. They flew a kite, had ice cream, and had a picnic on the grass. Isabella was radiant, running from one place to another, showing Catherine every discovery. A butterfly, a different kind of flower, a cute dog. And Ryan watched it all with a full heart. Catherine was there, in jeans and sneakers, her hair messy from the wind, laughing at Isabella's antics. There was nothing of the CEO about her in that moment. There was only a woman rediscovering the simplicity of a normal day. As the sun began to set, they walked back to the car. Isabella was tired, holding Ryan's and Catherine's hands, one on each side. And there, in that simple moment, Ryan realized something that both scared him and filled him with joy. They looked like a family. The weeks that followed were ones of profound change. Innovatech was transforming from the inside out, and Ryan was at the heart of that transformation. The anonymous tip line the team created received over 200 reports in the first 15 days. Stories of harassment, abuse of power, manipulation of reviews. Each report was carefully investigated, and action was taken. More managers were fired, processes were overhauled. The company was bleeding, but it was a necessary bleed for healing. Ryan was in the conference room when he got the call. It was from an unknown number. He answered without much thought. "Ryan, it's Mark." Ryan felt his entire body tense up. Mark Thompson, the man who had stolen years of his life, his self-esteem, his dreams. "What do you want?" "I want to talk. In person. Please." Ryan almost hung up. Almost said he had nothing to say, but something made him hesitate. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need for closure. "Where?" "The coffee shop across from the office. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Ryan agreed, not quite sure. Why? When he told Catherine, she frowned, concerned. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "I have to. I need to look him in the eye and hear what he has to say. I need this to move on." Catherine held his hand. "I'll go with you." And the next day, there they were. Ryan and Catherine walked into the coffee shop and found Mark sitting at a table in the back. He looked different, thinner, with deep dark circles under his eyes, his shoulders slumped. When he saw them, he tried to smile, but it was a sad, defeated smile. Ryan, Catherine, thanks for coming. They sat down. A heavy silence hung over the table for a few seconds. Mark nervously stirred his coffee. I don't know where to start. Maybe with an apology. Ryan, I wronged you. Badly. I stole your work, your credibility, your years, and I have no excuse for it. Ryan crossed his arms, his face impassive. Why did you do it? Mark sighed deeply. Because I was scared of not being good enough. When you joined the team, I saw your talent immediately. I saw you were better than I would ever be, and instead of supporting you, of learning from you, I sabotaged you, because if you shone, I would be left in the shadows. And you thought that justified destroying my life. No, it doesn't justify anything. I know that now. I lost my job, my reputation, my family. My wife filed for divorce when she found out what I did. The company is suing me. I've lost everything, and the worst part is, I deserve it. Ryan felt a mix of emotions. Anger, pity, relief. He glanced at Catherine, who gave a slight nod, encouraging him to speak. Mark, for years I believed I wasn't good enough. Because of you. You made me doubt my worth, my abilities. You made me feel invisible. And it almost destroyed me. I know. And I'll carry that for the rest of my life. Ryan took a deep breath. I don't know if I can forgive you, maybe one day, but today I just want you to know one thing. I survived. I overcame it. And I won. Not by destroying you, but by finding my worth again. And no one can take that away from me. Mark nodded, his eyes misty. You deserve every good thing, Ryan, you really do. And with that, Ryan stood up, took Catherine's hand, and they walked out of the coffee shop. He didn't look back. He didn't need to anymore. That chapter was finally closed. But the challenges weren't over. A week later, when Ryan picked Isabella up from school, he had an unpleasant surprise. Amanda, his ex-wife, was waiting at the gate. She wore an elegant dress, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She smiled when she saw him. Ryan, we need to talk. Amanda, what are you doing here? I came to see my daughter and to talk to you. Ryan felt his irritation grow. You haven't shown up in over a year, no calls, no texts, and now you just appear here like nothing happened. Amanda had the decency to look ashamed. I know I messed up. I know I abandoned you. But things have changed, Ryan. I've changed. Isabella came running out of the school and stopped in her tracks when she saw her mother. The smile vanished from her face. She looked at Ryan, confused. Daddy? Ryan went to her and picked her up. It's okay, sweetheart. Amanda took a step forward. Isabella, you've grown so much. You're so beautiful. Isabella turned her face, hiding it in her father's shoulder. The message was clear. She didn't want this reunion. Amanda, what do you want? Ryan asked, his voice tired. I want to be a part of her life again. I want to be a mother. You had your chance to be a mother. You chose to leave. I was lost, Ryan. I was unhappy. But when I heard about your success, about how you turned your life around, I thought maybe we could start over, for Isabella's sake. Ryan felt his anger boil. You want to come back now that I have a better position, now that I have money? Where were you when I was staying up all night because I couldn't pay the rent? Where were you when Isabella had pneumonia and I spent 3 days without sleep taking care of her by myself? Ryan, no, you have no right to show up now. Isabella has a life, a stable life, and I'm not going to let you disrupt that. Amanda tried to argue, but Ryan wouldn't listen. He carried Isabella to the car and drove. Away, his heart racing, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. When they got home, Catherine was already there. She had her own key now. Over the last few months, she had become part of their routine. She had dinner with them 3 times a week, helped Isabella with her homework and read her bedtime stories. When she saw the look on Ryan's face, Catherine knew something was wrong. Isabella went straight to her room, and Ryan told her everything. Amanda's appearance, her attempts to reconnect, his fear that it would mess up his daughter's life. Catherine hugged him. You did the right thing, you protected her. But what if Amanda insists? What if she files for custody? Then we fight. Together. The word together resonated in Ryan's chest. That's what they were now. Together. Sometime in the last few months, without him noticing exactly when, Catherine had stopped being the distant CEO and had become the most important person in his life. That night, after Isabella was asleep, Ryan and Catherine sat talking in the living room. The conversation flowed naturally to the future, to plans, dreams, hopes. "Sometimes I'm scared," Catherine confessed. "Scared that you'll wake up one day and realize I'm not good enough for you. For Isabella." Ryan took her face in his hands. "You are more than good enough. You're incredible. You changed our lives. And you changed mine." They kissed. It was a soft kiss, full of promise and tenderness. A kiss that sealed something that had been building for months. Things started to get better in every way. Ryan's work was finally publicly recognized when Innovatech was invited to present Project Aurora at one of the biggest tech conferences in North America. This time it wouldn't be Mark on stage, it would be Ryan. On the day of the conference, the auditorium was packed. Over 1,000 people, including executives, developers, investors, and journalists. Ryan was backstage, his heart pounding, his palms sweating. Claire came up to him and squeezed his shoulder. "You've got this. This is your moment." When the host announced his name, Ryan walked onto the stage to applause. The lights were bright, but he could see the front rows. There sat Catherine and Isabella, smiling proudly. Ryan began to speak. He told the story of Project Aurora, the technical challenges, the innovative solutions. But he also told his personal story. He talked about being invisible, about being sabotaged, about almost giving up. And he spoke about the importance of ethical leadership, of valuing people, of creating environments where talent can flourish. His voice trembled at times, but he didn't stop. And when he finished, the auditorium rose to its feet in applause. It was a standing ovation. Tears streamed down Ryan's face, but they were tears of joy, of fulfillment, of justice, finally served. After the conference, journalists wanted to interview him. Investors wanted to make offers. But Ryan only wanted one thing. He ran into the arms of Isabella and Catherine. "You were amazing, Daddy," Isabella shouted, jumping into his arms. "I'm so proud of you," Catherine said, her eyes shining. And there, in that embrace, Ryan felt like he had arrived. Not just professionally, but emotionally. He had found his place in the world. The months that followed were about consolidation. Innovatech became a benchmark for ethical management. Other companies began to copy their practices. Ryan was invited to give talks, to consult, but he preferred to stay where he was, building something real with his team. And his relationship with Catherine only deepened. She started staying. Over at Ryan's place 3 nights a week. Isabella started calling her Aunt Catherine, and then simply Kate. It was easier, more affectionate. Until one day, on an ordinary Sunday morning, as they were having breakfast in the kitchen, Isabella asked a question that changed everything. "Kate, are you going to stay with us forever, or are you going to leave like Mommy did?" The silence that followed was heavy. Catherine looked at Ryan, who gave her an encouraging nod. She knelt down to be at Isabella's level, holding her small hands. "Isabella, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. Both. And if you and your dad will have me, I want to stay here forever." Isabella smiled, that beautiful smile that lit up the world. "So you can be my real mum." Catherine felt tears stream down her face. "I would love to be your mum." And in that moment, in that simple kitchen over a cup of coffee and drawings scattered on the table, a family was formed. Not by blood, but by the bonds of love, of choice, of presence. 3 months later, Ryan and Catherine got married in a small, intimate ceremony with only close family and their dearest friends. Isabella was the flower girl, dressed in pink, scattering petals down the aisle. When the officiant asked if Catherine took Ryan to be her husband, Isabella shouted before she could answer, "She does! She told me yesterday!" Everyone laughed, and Catherine, laughing and crying at the same time, said, "I do." Life didn't become perfect. There were still challenges. Amanda tried to file for custody, but the judge denied it, recognizing that Isabella was happy and well cared for. Lawrence was removed from the company's board. after attempting one last act of sabotage. There were hard days, arguments, doubts, but Ryan had learned something fundamental. That true recognition doesn't come from job titles or salaries. It comes from looking in the mirror and liking the person you see. It comes from looking at the people around you and seeing true love. It comes from knowing that you matter, that you make a difference, that you are seen. And Ryan was seen. By Isabella, who looked at him as if he were the hero of every story. By Catherine, who loved him not in spite of his flaws, but including them. By his team, who followed him not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect. And by himself, finally, after so many years in the shadows. One night, late, Ryan was in bed with Catherine. Isabella was sleeping in the next room, the baby monitor transmitting her quiet breathing. Ryan looked at the woman beside him, at her blonde hair spread across the pillow, at her serene face in sleep. "Thank you," he whispered, even though he knew she couldn't hear. "Thank you for seeing me." And then he fell asleep, his heart at peace, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges but also new victories. Because he was no longer alone. He would never be alone again. End of story. Hey everyone, we hope the story of Ryan, Catherine, and Isabella touched your heart. If you were moved by this journey of overcoming adversity, finding recognition and true love, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what part resonated with you the most. Every day, we bring you intense stories like this one, stories that reveal the deepest side of the human soul, that show it's possible to start over, to be seen, and to build a family with the bonds of the heart. We'll see you in the next episode with another story that will make you reflect on life, love, and the strength that exists within each of us.